Delaware moved from the New York area, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. This was just one stop on our way to northern Oklahoma, which is where the tribe is based today. Because there are no federally recognized tribes in Indiana, people do not realize the amount of tribes that lived here in Indiana at one time. The towns of Anderson, Muncie, Strawtown were founded by the Delaware tribe.
Their conditions, living conditions, were poor. So by the time they reached Indiana, they did not have the stature that they had when they were on the East Coast. But a lot of it, I think, is simply because generation after generation has been moved. I think the Delaware possibly the most oft-moved group in American history.
All of the state of New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania, that was Delaware homeland when the Europeans arrived here. The two basic reasons that tribes did not get along with the Europeans. Europeans throughout their history believed in amassing wealth. They also believed in ownership of land. The Europeans were out of line here because the tribes here believed not in ownership of land. The land was for everybody to share in. By the French and Indian War, we were on the west side of the Alleghenies in western Pennsylvania. And over time, again, by the Revolutionary War, 1770s, we were in northeast Ohio.
Treaty of Greenville in 1795, one of the ways that they were trying to get people to accept the treaty was floating the idea that that Indiana would in effect become the 14th state of the Union. It would be the state of the Indians. There was very little chance of that happening, and I think it was as much a negotiating ploy on the part of the government as anything. I think many Native Americans believed it was going to be true. And it was the treaty that would open up Ohio to settlement and move the Delaware and a few others to central Indiana. So the Delawares first started moving to central Indiana in 1795, 1796, at the sufferance of the Miami, who technically were thought to control or own the territory. And the Delaware set up a series of villages starting from just below present-day Muncie, Indiana, and eventually would lead down to about the Marion County line in the Indianapolis area. And this became home for a short 25 years. Here they found themselves smack dab in the middle of a very tenuous and tortured time in Delaware history. There were as many as 12 to 14, quote, villages. Now that could be the larger, more permanent ones like around Muncie, present-day Muncie. And then there were the seasonal villages. Of those, there were maybe 6 that really withstood the test of time. The others were either trading post villages or temporary villages that they would set up. After the Treaty of St. Mary's in 1818, it basically was made between various tribes. There were actually about 6 different treaties that were signed there, to open up this central area of Indiana for white settlement. It was called the New Purchase. So they were given 3 years to vacate Indiana.
The Delawares are certainly a persistent people, because if you consider some of the tales of woe that I have shared, we're still here today. And many other tribes did not survive, or they've had to be absorbed into larger tribes in order to survive. That persistence is because we have an obligation to keep our identity, our language, and our cultural and tribal identity as Lenape, because it is a gift from the Creator.